I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, when you think about it.
Musk and Trump, best friends forever, or rift waiting to happen? There's no question that this is a different type of political era with a new vocabulary and a peculiar lexicon that years before would have been implausible. Do you remember when Trump was on Twitter and everyone used to think, this is extraordinary, isn't it? The president on Twitter in the dead of night. Now, Twitter is in the Oval Office in the form of its owner, Elon Musk, who's changed his name to Harry Bowles. And now everyone's got to sort of accept that discourse.
Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls.
But did the flat puerility of legacy media discourse prior to the election, all of these sort of pious people, Brian Stelter, hey, come on, why don't you listen to me? You know, like, media has changed. Politics has changed. The world has changed. Of course, that was going to mean new elites and the emergence of new leaders. How are CNN and the legacy media going to cope? And what do we think when Elon Musk plainly admits to making errors? For example, one of the US AID stories that really caught my attention, let me know in the comments and chat if you observed this, was that $50 million of condoms have been sent to Gaza. Now, you sort of think these guys are in some pretty serious trouble. That's not exactly the prophylactic they require. One of the other ones was the Iraqi Sesame Street story. So I now don't know what's true and what isn't, once again, and I don't like living in that kind of bewilderment. So we're going to have a look at the arc of these stories, starting with a little of the address. Note the visual dynamics. Elon Musk brings his kid places. How do you see that? Do you see that like, Hitler kissing babies, or do you see it as sort of like kind of cute that he's, it's bring your kid to work day?
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it's not. It does not match the will of the people, so it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. And if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
So what's really interesting there, a few things. Visually, the child being there is sort of fascinating and somewhat anomalous, although there are sort of photographs of JFK with his kid under the desk, man, sort of really important and iconic American political images. Some of you will note Donald Trump, who's not a man who looks at ease in repose, in so much as he's a central figure, isn't he? He's a sort of a leading player, and when he's on the sidelines and someone else talking, it's sort of it's a visual curio to observe. But if you bring your attention to the content of what Elon Musk's actually saying, everything was extremely articulate. I mean, that's not an idiot, is it? That's not a garbled idiot. That's someone explaining autonomous bureaucracies are by their nature anti-democratic, and where do you draw the line when it comes to empowerment and authority of agencies and administrations? And I suppose the answer is always going to be, in a democracy, is it? Let me know in the comments and chat. Accountability. So it's difficult not to get distracted by the sort of jarring visual dynamics of a man in a baseball cap with a little boy coming out of his coat like a sort of a Muppet man. You know what I mean? When the Muppets sort of stand in a column like that. That's a little bit what it made me think about. But the actual content of what he was saying when it comes to bureaucracies is, one, I think, true, and two, certainly in alignment with the rhetoric that preceded the election, i.e. it's not like they campaigned on saying we're going to have real big state and we're going to give pay rises to everyone within the FBI and in the sort of deep-rooted power systems of bureaucracy. They didn't say that, did they? They said they're going to slash and burn and get rid of government. And because most of us hate government now, because governments have been so appalling, we sort of, in a sense, embrace it. But one thing to consider is, are we actually, in a way, being distracted by these sort of visually exciting and stimulating people and these extraordinary policies, and perhaps not paying enough attention to what's happening? Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. Here's CNN apparently attempting to drive a wedge between Trump and Musk by claiming that Musk pushed Trump to the side. And doesn't that make you think, everything's getting totally trivialized the whole time? Keir Starmer pushing cotton buds down his dick hole. These guys sort of focusing continually on the personal dynamics, although personal dynamics will always be impactful. This is an extraordinary and unusual time. We should focus on the tectonic movements where possible.
Who was the one standing, taking most of the questions, having the president in this odd, jarring setting, looking up to him? Well, it was Elon. This was Musk's first press conference since Trump's election, and he took over. Trump literally, in all these images, kind of looked like he'd been pushed off to the side because Elon was the center of it.
He hasn't been pushed off to the side. That's just for the framing of the camera. He's not been pushed off to the side. That's where he would have been at the beginning, because you'd have to move that desk that looks like it's mahogany. That wouldn't be like, excuse me, we're just going to push you off to the side, Donald. Okay, hairy balls, do whatever you tell me, man. I'm just going to comply. Yeah, that's just the framing of the shot. You don't need to worry about that. Vitamins are vital. I guess that's where the word vital and vitamin share a root, except in my accent, where it's called vitamins. Give us a vitamin. Your body cannot make them, and yet they are vital. You gotta have them. You gotta have them every day. The problem is food quality has degenerated thanks to agricultural law and big food and all of the corruption that we're well aware of and report on every day. You can't get good vitamins from poor quality food. Medical studies prove that 92% of Americans are deficient in one or more vitamins. You poor Americans. This leads to your body aging rapidly, premature illness, and sometimes a dreadful stench. I added the last one, but you can't be too careful. Dr. Schultz's Superfood 100. 100% of your essential vitamins made 100% from fruits, vegetables, herbs, and superfoods. You can take it in a number of ways, either in a couple of delicious little tablets or pills, or in a lovely powder. Just add it to liquid, shake the drink, and go. No BS, no sugar, no preservatives, nothing artificial. If you're busy, and you are, this takes less than 1 minute out of your day to improve your health. Go to herbdoc.com/brand and use the code BRAND for 25% off. Go to herbdoc.com/brand and use the code BRAND to get 25% off. Who's got time for any more of this nonsense?
I mean, at times Trump seemed annoyed. I mean, it wasn't just that Musk dominated. He did speak for about 20 of the 32 minutes. So about 63.5% if you're counting.
Oh, God, that's so puerile, isn't it? But isn't it that the questions were geared towards areas of his expertise and personal responsibility? We shouldn't be surprised, should we?
Time. It was that Musk physically owned the entire event. He and his child were the center of the attention.
They physically owned it. A boy king and his baseball cap wearing father sucked up all the attention like a vacuum cleaner made out of minds and mouths. An extraordinary piece of reporting from CNN right there. Let's have a look at Elon Musk sort of blithely admitting that some of the things he says are not true. In particular, the $50 million of condoms. And let me know how you feel about this. Isn't it sort of somehow refreshing to hear someone? Is it refreshing, or is it sort of awesome that there's a level of power where you can just sort of say, well, listen, some of the things I say are going to be wrong? Can you imagine Biden or Kamala saying such a thing?
And this is big numbers. We're talking about $100 to $200 billion a year.
Sure.
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct this statement? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
That is a good point. I mean, yeah, do you want America to be sending $50 million of condoms to it anywhere? I suppose it becomes particularly absurd when you consider the crisis in Gaza, but then when you start contemplating that, some of Trump's rhetoric elsewhere about potential American activity, construction activity in Gaza seems once again absurd. I would say that in general, it's pretty intriguing to see press conferences like this. When I was growing up, people had said that politics had become mundane and people had checked out. In retrospect, there were people like Maggie Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. But now, this is astonishing, isn't it? Isn't this an astonishing spectacle that includes sort of common sense rhetoric, extraordinary descriptions and definitions of the inner workings of bureaucracies, kids on their dad's shoulders? I mean, there's a lot going on. Pretty stimulating, I would say. And sometimes you just have to kind of agree. Do Americans want $50 million worth of condoms being sent anywhere, Gaza or Mozambique or anywhere?
But, if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Can you talk?
I don't think Trump looks that bothered. I think he looks sort of like, I think he's enjoying it, though. Like he's listening to a podcast about condoms. That is a lot of condoms. It's a lot of condoms. A lot of condoms. I used a lot of condoms back in the day. Let's have a look at Anderson Cooper. And in a way, when we're sort of talking about the sort of dynamics and aesthetics of political conversation, it's not right. He's got his kid on his shoulders. He's talking about condoms. He's changed his name to Hairy Balls. What are we comparing it to? The authoritative media of yesteryear. Authority should be an indication of competence and trust. You don't trust the media. I don't trust the media. They lie all of the time. Here, though, Anderson Cooper lapses into the kind of discourse that, in a sense, language that undermines yet another aspect of their authority, the fact that they use proper words and don't say dumb stuff like, I'm called Harry Balls, here's the news. Here's Anderson Cooper calling someone a dick while talking about Doge, of all things.
It was surreal, but I got to tell you, I know what you're not showing here. Musk gave 7 specific examples off the top of his head of where the corruption and fraud were. I know you didn't play the clips. He was talking about a contractor that had a 3-month contract. He was paid for 20 years. He was talking about welfare benefits that were being paid to someone that was technically 150 years old. He was talking about line items in the Treasury that had no justification.
There's no he doesn't present any actual evidence.
Well, he's standing there in the Oval Office. Do you expect him to come in with 10,000 pages? And I have to be clear, to complain about this administration about transparency, when this president takes open questions on a daily basis, yet Joe Biden didn't show up for a press conference this 6 months, is insane. These guys are being extremely transparent. They don't have to sit there and take the questions, but they do. It's all on the website. It's all out there.
It's not transparency to say things that have no factual background. I mean, to say we're cutting, we've found $1 billion or $1 trillion in waste with no specifics, that's just talk. That's not transparency.
It's 23 days in here, guys. 23 days. You were talking about $2.3 billion that was saved last year. These guys are saving $2.3 billion a day.
Right, but
it's incredible.
That's what they're saying. But where's the proof?
You're waiting. You're not going to be satisfied till he shows up with 10,000 pages.
But 10,000 pages. Yeah. He's giving very specific things, but he's not actually giving any evidence of that.
It's all going to come because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress.
Right, but
we'll show where it is.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not.
You're talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. That was
Yeah.
FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a dick. The what I'm saying is the portrayal by him is.
I like that the guys sort of went, hey, we don't do that. Hey, we don't do that. That's pretty interesting. The world's changing rapidly and radically, and perhaps we oughtn't be surprised, given what Americans voted for, that we now have Elon Musk in the Oval Office in a black MAGA cap, with his kid peeking out of his coat, explaining somewhat articulately the new changes when it comes to government employees and the delivery on their intention to slash expenditure and reduce jobs and to become more transparent and open. And neither should we be surprised by their fallibility. This is an extraordinary age we're participating in. We're not all just victims here. We're all on X and online making audacious claims, not examining perhaps sufficiently our own perspectives, biases and prejudices, allowing power to be formed on the basis of urges and sometimes unconscious impulses. I would say Trump is the president that the world's got. Trump's the president that the world needs. And I'm saying world instead of America quite deliberately. Although plainly there are other forces, national and international, that have to be considered. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are perhaps the type of leaders that the age demands. Certainly if you believe in electoral mandates, that's precisely what's happened. And what they're doing ain't at odds with what they campaigned on. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat, wherever you're watching us right now. X, YouTube, Rumble Premium. Join Rumble Premium right now. It costs like $9.99 a month. If you use my code, you get a month free. Plus, you get access to additional content from me, like my show, Break Bread. You also get additional content from Crowd and a whole bunch of people. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.